Hello Space Cats, Jules here. This week I wanted to look at how to paint a snow scene. It might be for a story you're making, or it might be as a standalone piece of art. You can paint along with me if you like. I'll speed up the painting where I'm not explaining what I'm doing. Otherwise we'll be here all day and you'll miss your dinner. And I don't want loads of comments about cold dinners. So grab a pencil and a bit of watercolour paper and draw your own version of this chilly winter scene. So now that I've inked some of the painting, particularly along here and also a little bit of the house and the person and the dog, I've rubbed out the marks. I let it dry really thoroughly and then I rubbed out the marks around those areas, but I've left myself some pencil marks where I need to show the snow and also the tree, which is over this side. So the first thing I'm going to do is the sky, so that's this top third up here above where the house is. I've got a really wide brush with just water on it and I'm going over the tree but around the dovecote and the house. This is my darkest brown and my darkest blue, which is an indigo, and I think that's Van Dyke brown. And I'm going to put a little bit of ochre in it as well. I'm going to do the same treatment for this midline. This is the path that they're walking across, that's the bottom third. And try and go around the person and the dog as much as possible. Dog's not too much of a problem because he's going to be black, so not too worried about that. And I'm also going over the line drawings that I've done of the plants. This time I'm going to pick up a slightly lighter blue. Give it a little bit more of an icy feel to it. And then with a clean brush, I'm just going to drop some blobs of water across that. At this point, I'm beginning to think about where the light is coming from, and this is perhaps something that you can think about before you start. But as I've got quite a dark line here, I'm going to imagine that the light source is coming from this direction going that way, because that means that this bit of snow is casting a little bit of shadow on that bit of icy path that is slightly lower than the snow is. So therefore the shadow for the house is going to be going behind it, so we're not going to see much shadow there, but we will see a little bit of shadow from the dog behind it and the person behind him or her, and also behind the tree. There's another little path that comes from the front door and it goes over in that direction, so I'm going to do that one next. And this time I'm going to use my tapered brush to put the water down, because it's a much narrower little path. And I'm going to try and copy what I've done with the light in this path. So that's one colour. And then I'm going to pick a smaller brush and I'm just going to drop some of that dark indigo in this front edge. Clean my brush and just blend that in a little bit. Now for the tree. So I've mixed up some dark brown. I've built up a lot of those branches, and now I'm just going to be putting a little bit of detail just along the trunk. Just a tiny bit, because eventually it will have some snow on it, on the branches, when it's all dried properly. Okay, we can move on to the person. Just to draw a little bit of colour interest into this, I'm going to give him a red scarf and a brown coat. So I'm just going to start off with some burnt umber for his coat, so it's a sort of camel colour. Fairly benign against the red that's going to pop from his scarf. And because the skin is not next to the coat that I've just painted, I'm going to give him a little bit of skin tone as well. Kind of rosy because he's cold. Actually, that is too rosy. Looks like he's got sunburn. There we go. I'll just remove that with a little bit of water. And I'm going to give him some black shoes, or dark grey. And then the dog. So the dog, I'm going to make him really, really dark brown with a collar that's a different colour. I'm not quite sure what colour we're going to make it yet. So you'll see that although I have got a little bit of the icy blue that covers him ever so slightly, it doesn't matter because the dark colour covers that up. And once that's dry, I can do the rest of him. And whilst I'm waiting for a few things to dry further up the picture, I can start looking at these down here. So I'm going to pick out some greens to do the leaves. And then the holly is going to be that sort of darker khaki kind of a green. Now I need to do something about the middle section. There's a little bit of a line between two sort of meetings of snow here, maybe a field edge. So I'm just going to put some, with my biggest tapered brush, I'm just going to pick up a bit of that snowy colour and just holding my brush right at the end, I'm going to just give that a little bit of edge. And then pick up some water, because there's going to be lots of lumps and bumps in this snow where the soil undulates and where footprints are from animals. So that's kind of what this is showing. Okay, now working around the top end, I'm going to look at the roof. So it's going to have just that underneath here. There's just going to be a bit of a line where the shadow is the same kind of there. Just a little tiny bit. And I'm going to colour those chimneys in when that's dry. Okay, I think I can do something around the bottom of here now all of this is dry. So again, I'm going to pick up a larger brush, but not my biggest brush this time. And I'm just going to, around the bottom here, and going around the majority of those plants, I'm just going to sort of jiggle my brush in and around. I won't go too much around the holly because it's a very dense bush, so you wouldn't really see very much. And then perhaps just a little dotted in and around. I'm going to add the berries to these ones. Now some of them don't have any berries at all. They have kind of dead flowers like this one, which is a sort of a cow parsley. And this holly definitely has to have very bright red. So I'm going to start with that. And I'm leaving that little bit of white to show that it's one of the shiny berries that's got a kind of a tougher coat, so it's more shiny. And then the other ones can be variations of yellow and orange, I think. Let's do some orange first. These ones are going to be orange. This is just pure cadmium. So what I'm doing is I'm contrasting the warm colours of the red, orange and yellow with the cold snowy blue and the greys. So when you're painting snow pictures, that's what you've got to think about, is where you're painting a picture of temperatures. So your cold temperatures are going to be where the snow is, but if you've got an area where you can put warm temperatures as well, then that shows the cold even better. And I'm going to give him, just to make this feel chillier, some blue trousers. And then his red scarf. And I'm not going to give him a red hat. I'm going to give him a brown hat. And our little dog, I think I'm going to go for that darker red for his collar. Just to tie it in with his person. Okay, so I didn't do these flowers down in this bottom corner here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of purple, or sort of violet-y colour, and I'm going to do a little spot in the middle of each flower, because around the corner from my house there is a plant just like this flowering. It's currently February and we haven't got snow, we've got loads of rain. But this is what the plant around the corner is doing, and it smells amazing. These leaves here, I'm just going to go back in with a slightly darker green and just give that a little bit of depth to it, just so it's not a block colour. And I'm going to do the same with this one a bit further along. And that's using that khaki green that I've got. And not to leave them out, I need to do the one next door too. There we go. Now I've got my fine brush, I'm just going to give that dovecoat a little, like I've done with the roof, the snowy roof. I'm going to do the same with the dovecoat. And it's really important that when you've got something that's white, you do give it a bit of shadow so it doesn't look like you've forgotten to paint that bit in. Right, so the front of the house, what colour should we do that? I'm just going to pick up a sort of a darker sort of brick colour, and I'm going to do the chimneys first. And then just by dotting it to show that it's brick, I'm just building up that colour of the house. And I think just by doing that dotted technique, it shows that there's mortar between the bricks or stones. And I'm going to give them a green front door, I think. Green? Yeah, greeny sort of browny colour. So I don't really want it to stand out too much. And then in a minute, when that's dry, I'm going to darken the windows a little bit. In the meantime, I want to come back to the tree. I've picked up a brown pencil. This is a Derwent Inktense Dark Chocolate brown pencil, and I want to think about where the snow is going to be lying. So it's going to probably be in the crevices a little bit, and then on the boughs that are more horizontal. But in the meantime, I'm just going to use this to give it a little bit more definition in some areas, and I'm going to choose the left hand side of the, just gives it a bit of definition. And I'm trying to remember where the snow is going to lie. And the good thing about it being pencil is I haven't got to wait for it to dry. What I will do actually quickly is just give our little doggy a bit of definition as well down the bottom there, underneath his tummy. Just a little bit of shadow. And what I've got here is some white watercolour. You could use gouache if you've got it, or acrylic. And I'm just going to go into those little edges where I think the snow would fall, or collect anyway. Back up to the house. I'm going to do a yellow light in the bottom window there, so it looks like someone's home. In fact, I'm going to do it on both bottom windows. And then the upstairs windows are going to be dark. A little bit of smoke coming out of the chimneys. And we've got some bushes up here, one that side and one that side. So I'm just going to grab a bit of green just underneath, because there's snow on the top of them. So I'm going to do a little bit of that trick with the blue over the top of this one, just to show that there is some snow there. One more thing that I do need to put in is there is a fence running all the way from the side of the house. So with my dark chocolate pencil, Just going to run a line along there. And then a second one. And then just some uprights. And because this is a water-soluble pencil, I can then get my clean brush and just very sporadically and gently just drag my brush, my wet brush, along there. If it gets too, I'm doing this very, very lightly, so it's not touching absolutely everywhere. If it get too much of that pigment, just clean your brush. Okay, now what we do need is some footprints. So with the same brush, I'm going to pick up some quite dark blue, and then just behind him, so he's stepped there, so the step would be there. Something like that. Clean brush, and go back in, just drop a bit of water in there, just to smudge it out a little bit. And the dog. Now then, do you remember I said right back at the beginning that we've got the light coming from this direction, so it's going that way. So I need to put a little bit of shadow behind this tree. So I'm going to swap brushes. A slightly bigger brush. Tapered. Most of my painting I do with tapered brushes. And then a little bit of that dark blue. And I'm going to swap hands. I'm using my left hand here, which I don't normally use. I'm just going to do just a tiny bit of shadow like that. Smooth it out with some just plain water. And the last thing I think I'm going to do to this picture is with a iris blue Derwent Inktense. I'm going to give the snow that I've painted onto the tree just a little bit of shadow. Just in a few places so that you can see it clearly, because up against the sky, where it's not a very opaque pigment, it's bled a little bit into the soil. It's not bled, but it's disappeared a little bit into that sky. I just want to show a little bit of contrast there. When I said that was the final thing, I fibbed. I'm actually going to put a little bit of colour on this that I said I wasn't going to, but I am going to, because I just think it needs something. So I've got some sort of murky sort of a purpley colour. I'm just going to go over the tops of those flowers. So I've mixed a bit of violet with a bit of burnt umber. Okay. Sign my name and that's it. Next week I'll be investigating the world of draw this in your style. If you enjoyed this, I'd appreciate a like, share or comment to get this out to other viewers just like you. I'm off to see how many ants make an antelope. I'll see you next week. Nanu nanu.